Thanks. I want to talk about the Supreme Court latest ruling, majority ruling 6-3, about the Trump's tariffs. I love it. I love the majority rulings, and then I really think that's what makes me thinking is that what makes American legal system, politics, or culture functioning better than other places that we are the system is built on a bunch of independent individuals. Okay, so I'm thinking about China. That created the biggest beauty is that there is uncertainty. There's somewhat unpredictability, if you will. Just because Trump named those, nominated those justice, does not mean they owe you something. But that's exactly what happened in China. People talk about the Guanxi, and then a lot of scholars try to make it look pretty, but it's very ugly. Basically, it's that I'm doing a favor for you, and then you're supposed to pay me back. If not, you're supposed to be a bad guy. It doesn't matter who was the truth, who was the right principles. That's not a that's not even the issue. Let me give you an example. When Chairman Mao died, and his former private doctor wrote a memoir, and you know revealing so many ugly things about the Chairman Mao. And then guess what? The Chinese, majority of the people in China, in the mainland China, what they think? They think that Dr. Lee, that's his name, Dr. Lee is bad because Chairman Mao was treating him nicely. And then, so instead of paying the favor back to Chairman Mao, he is a bad mouth about the Chairman Mao. And that's all they can think of it. That just to make me think that this such a culture is hopeless. You cannot materially. This country is very modernized, but when it comes to the mindset, it's still like 3,000 years ago. There's very little change all those times. So that's why I like this unpredictability. I like the uncertainty because everything in China is certain. Every holidays Xi Jinping was supposed to show up. If not, then when people uh, um, suspecting something happened, and all so let me get this. Instead of talking about majority opinions, I like to focus on the Justice Kavanaugh. He has a different opinions. He's very vocal about it. He raised several issues. Number one, he thinks that it's within presidential power to charge tariffs. Okay. Number two, he thinks that there's not much difference between tariffs and import quota and embargoes. And then number three, he is also complaining about the majority rulings did not address the creating how to, refund the importers eventually, to the consumers, you know. And he believed that there will be a big mess, and he is complaining about the majority ruling was not, addressing that. Let me give the individual discussion for the 3 point. Number one is that within presidential power to charge the such a broad, global, sweeping tariffs. And the short answer is no. Uh, Whether you are focused on one particular law or any other laws, you know, and then this we really have to look at the two particular reasons. Number one is historical case that happened before. Yes, we do have some historical case. Um, for example, starting when the U.S. was first established the country, and then we had several laws to charge sweeping, broad power, not as broad as Trump. We have to say, and then so that for that reason, I really, I think that we need to keep that in mind that including Justice Kavanaugh, that he was thinking about we can cross the same river twice. But no, the historical situation is different from today. Back in the 18th, 19th centuries and early 20th centuries, U.S. did have a sweeping tariffs protectionism. But you have to think about this. Before the 1930s, we're talking about the later Smoot and Haley Act. That's in 1930s. Before that, basically, the U.S. has been farming countries. They rely on heavily on the import from Britain, from the UK. Um, so if you borrow the protection of infant industry, that makes sense because developing countries are allowed a certain period of time uh, to have that tariff of protection, so they can let the internal domestic industry grow, and then to eventually get to the competitive to the developed countries. That's what basically happened. Basically, around before 19,000, the U.S. has been basically a farming countries, but until after 19,000, the U.S. then become actually the first. I think the manufacturing, the GDP has been surpassed the UK. So that's one part of it. You cannot directly say, "Hey, just because the U.S. had a tariff protection before 19,000, we should do that today." Today is vastly different because the U.S. is the strongest economy in the world by far. The second one, closest one, China, is even it's not even close. Okay, so that's one thing. You cannot apply the previous historical case to justify the tariffs today. What about the 1930s, Smoot and Haley Act? That's basically in responding to the Great Depression. Okay, uh, but the lesson that we can learn from even from 1930 Smoot and the Haley Act is that it's very counterproductive. You know, all the protectionism is always counterproductive. I don't think Trump will be, able to understand it. But this has been proven by the data. It's a natural for a country to issue to get into the protectionism if the domestic economy is not doing well. However, the lesson is there that the counterproductive. The more you protect it, the more you suffer. That's so that's one. So if you combine these two together, historically we don't have a strong case supporting the global um, tariffs. The only exception is Nixon's in 1971. He had imposed the surcharge and then basically saying that to fix the balance of payment problem what this country has. But the other, I actually look at the data and I ask a question based mostly with the Grok. And then Grok showed the data to prove that, they are, in terms of a duration, in terms of the scope, Nixon's policy, the so-called surcharge of the import, it's been no comparison to Trump's. Number one, Nixon's policy is basically 4 to 5 months because it started in August 19, I believe, in 1971, and then basically ended at the end of that year. So basically, 4 or 5 months. Trump, on the other hand, is almost 11 or 12 months so far. And the most importantly, Trump doesn't say anything about the duration. You know, I think this country's legal system has been lenient to this guy, to the president, to his administration. You know, by giving him such a long period of time, lasting so long, and also in terms of scope. Uh, Nixon's policy was narrower than this because it's only 10% surcharge. Okay, Trump, on the other hand, basically they have a baseline of 10%, and then uh, on top of that, we may have for a short period of time, Trump was threatening about 140%. It's just everything, anything that in his mind that he comes up to, and then so basically that's not the a country should be with the rule of law. Okay, that's just basically. So that's one thing. Historically, doesn't give much uh, uh, favorable argument for Trump's global tariffs. The second point is that the second argument is from Justice Kavanaugh. Again, there's nothing against him in person, but I'm just just a legal discussion. And is that global sweeping tariffs same thing or similar to embargo and quota? The answer is no. Clearly no. If you know anything about the trade system, trade war, you know it's very different because uh, tariffs basically there's some data that I think one particular study in 2025 was saying that Trump's tariffs has been increased American household by 1,000 to $1,500 each year so far. So that's really a big uh, uh, cost of a tariff war. Is actually significant for the people in the low income and people in the small industry, small business. Okay, so don't tell me that tariff is the same thing. Don't tell me that the tariff will cost the enemies. No, it mostly directly the importers will pay that at the port, and then pay that much money, and then eventually, it's no secret that eventually the consumers will pay for it. So that's why, um, regardless how much, um, uh, how much the lies they have or propagandas or um, political rhythm is. The simple fact is that the American consumers are paying that. And then so the embargo and quota is actually directly targeting at the enemy nations, basically make them suffer from the market share of the U.S. market. So that's very different. It's a categorical different. Okay, and also there's another thing is that the scope. If you are facing this particular enemies, you should be targeted at the particular countries, particular nations. At a time, not the you know. So this idea is actually derived directly from derived Trump's thinking. In his idea and in his mind, the U.S. has been ripped off by everybody in the world. That's why he believed that we should charge tariffs from everybody. That's just it's just that's just not true. Just because your country has some trade deficit, it does not mean people are rip you off. You have to look at the balance picture. But let me just stop here. We'll make another tape one.